I think that somehow we are born into this world with a leaning toward one thing or another. So absolutely not. I don't think our basic personalities change.
Hello and welcome. I'm Jude DeMeglio-Trang. Thank you for joining me on the Gift of Need podcast. This podcast is exploring the intersection of the needs that we have in life and how we have growth and mutual support. And it came out of a deep belief that our needs are not burdens, but they are gifts. My guest today is Linda Bale, and Linda has been a guest with me before and will be here again. She is a great friend, an artist, a retired English teacher, a helper to the poor and needy anywhere she finds them. And she found us, John and I, at some point in time. We found each other, and here we are decades later.
That's so awesome. Yeah, John and Jude, thank you so much.
Today's topic, we're going to be discussing collaborations and why we need them. And collaborations, just to give a little definition, is the action of two or more people that work together to create something or obtain a goal together, produce something. Linda and I have collaborated together on an eclectic mix of goals and creations in the decades that we've been friends.
That's for sure. Whenever Jude has ideas, she calls me up and says, like, can you help me make this happen? Pillow t-shirts, t-shirt pillows.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, so many things. Yes. It was so great.
And we have found that two heads are better than one in this case.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think to start out, we should talk about our personalities and strengths. Linda and I have been reading and discussing personality traits for ages.
Yeah,
and
totally.
I guess we're both fascinated with them, huh?
Well, trying to understand why there's so much conflict with people we love. Like, why is it so hard sometimes to speak the same language or even understand each other?
Yeah, I think that's it. So, there's something about my brain that causes me to get letters and words mixed up, though Linda's been trying to get me to remember the initials that go like with the Myers-Briggs 16 types, and I just cannot keep them straight. So, Linda, would you just explain a little bit about you and I and our personalities and how we're different, etc.?
Okay. Yeah. It is confusing, and I would highly recommend the Please Understand Me book. But I would want to emphasize just two of the strands. And one is introvert, extrovert, and the other is feeling and thinking. Now, as Myers-Briggs have noticed, most humans approach life like when something happens with them, they first think about it and then feel at a different moment. So it's not all at the same time. They're thinkers first, and then they feel things. But some people feel first and think later. And that difference is very strong in almost all humans. And it's pretty easy to tell right away which you prefer, to think first or feel first. And usually we're partnered up with people who have opposite.
Mm-hmm. And that's true with us, isn't it?
It really is.
Sometimes I get so frustrated because I just, what comes in goes straight into my brain. And then, as Linda said, it goes into my heart and my feelings, maybe way later. I don't know. So it's, in many circumstances, I feel like it's a handicap. In other ones, I think it is a strength. So,
absolutely. And when she's thinking straight and I'm feeling, I value that, not right away sometimes, but later on, I really value her strong words that give me an anchor in the emotional storms. The other layer is when people are introvert or extrovert. We've heard a lot about that. Introverts are minority in our culture, And we have more extroverts. But what happens is introverts think deeply, but they won't always pop out with the words at the exact time. They like to think deeply, privately. Sometimes they'll be the quiet ones when the room and the table is filled with lots of talking, people talking over each other. Also, extroverts are energized by party, by group, and introverts, they kind of wilt toward the end of the night and they're ready to go home. But that is a strong difference that once we understand it for each other, we can compassionately make room for our differences.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know that I understood that our society, at least American society, is more extrovert than introvert. But I always, in my life and people around me, as I was growing up, thought I was an extrovert because I enter the room with my mouth, right? But I've come to learn that I'm a social introvert, that I have fine social skills. If I was at a party or a gathering, nobody would think that I was an introvert. But the fatigue I experience after being around a group of people, and after a short time, I feel like I need to get out of there or go sit in a corner to get my energy back. And that's what my daughter had said when she was studying psychology in uni, that, Mom, extroverts get their energy from people and introverts lose it. And that's a perfect description of me. So, I'm married to an extrovert, and my best friend Linda is an extrovert. Yes. So clearly, we have different strengths and weaknesses. And it says to me that we have need of others to complete and complement our abilities and vice versa. So when we're offering our gifts to help meet the needs of someone, that's a kind of the give and take again, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, do you think, here's a question, our basic personalities, our basic nature changes significantly over time, even with collaboration?
Many of us wish we could. Like, I think hanging around with introverts, I thought that I was one, but then they start laughing when I say it out loud. I don't think it does. I think that somehow we are born into this world with a leaning toward one thing or another, and so absolutely not. I don't think our basic personalities change. I think with collaboration and some self-reflection, we learn to understand each other's needs and the languages that they use that are different than ours.
I think that's true. And what you're saying is that we can't ever develop enough to be everything. And I remember feeling that, like, yes. The leopard can't change its spots is what I have to be reminding myself. It's not that we can't change and grow. I mean, that would be horrible to think that I was still my 14-year-old self or my 25-year-old self, I hope that I've had lots of personal growth, but who I am and that nature and how I see the world is still pretty much the same. They say you are, who you were when you were 10. A lot of things get set in that concrete early on in our lives, and probably aside from how we view the world, probably a lot of that relates to how we were when we came out of the womb.
That might be. It's a question that has puzzled people for a long time. and when you use the word changed, I think that we're, as human beings, there's so many multi-layers to us, very complex in many ways. That's one reason why people don't like these personality profiles, because I don't want to be a box. I'm not 4 letters, But when we're saying change, sometimes in English we don't have enough words to say we can certainly change in many ways in emotional growth, intelligence, all those things. But sometimes the way that we approach life, that in that sense, we don't change.
Yeah.
We just don't change.
I can say that that's true in my life.
And, if we changed radically that way, we almost wouldn't know each other. I'm thinking about my dad on Father's Day, passed a year ago. And I'm just thinking, no, he was an introvert, thinker, inventor, broad picture guy till the day he died. And it was at 88 years old.
Well, and when you mentioned that, my mom had Alzheimer's, and definitely, I mean, her basic personality was there, but what that disease did to her brain did cause her to be unrecognizable at times. So that would not be what we would want. Absolutely. Right.
So changes.
Yeah. So in thinking about collaboration and improved skills and all of that aspect, there's this proverb that I've heard, an African proverb that says, if you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that has, boy, in many ways, it kind of typifies my life with John, because we always say, I am looking at the destination and John enjoys the trip. I want to go quickly and get there. And, but a lot of times, then you're going alone, and then you're subject to the things that going alone brings along with it.
Loneliness, for one thing, burnout, just exhaustion. And I know from trying to save the world on my own, it hasn't been working. I really feel that. I did that at first when I learned about a refugee family, and would bring bags of clothes and be there all the time. But when their needs became too much for me, I was spending all my free time helping. And what we really have to do is gather around people in need and share the helping with others. To do things alone, you burn out. But if you do it with a group, you can go far. You can help people much more profoundly by circling around in a team.
So that's the endurance. Yeah, that's right. You know,
and then we benefit from a variety of people around us.
Well, and that's us. When we recognize our own limitations, it's only logical that we'd begin to realize how much we need others, which goes back to the whole reason I started writing The Gift of Need. So relationally, the collaboration builds trust and boosts morale with the people that are working together, right?
Absolutely. And the trust is built by keeping your word, and when you can't, to say it as soon as you know. Like, we have kind of a shame, like if we can't keep a promise, then we hem and haw, and finally we tell the other people, oh, I can't be there. But really, the second you know it looks pretty imminent, you cannot fulfill on an agreement, that is the moment you have to say, ooh, I thought I could, but I can't. I'm letting you know as soon as I knew.
This brings up a thought. I remember when our kids were in high school, they had, and those climbing walls were just coming into popularity. And they would do those trust building exercises together. And when I heard the kids talk about that they had to rely on somebody else, like even where one's pulling something and you have to let go and trust that they're going to catch you
on the rope dangling off the wall.
I could not do that. I just don't think I could. I'm not a very trusting. Okay, our friends in Italy, when we were with them one time years ago, and I can't remember what the circumstance was, but they said, well, you need this Italian proverb. To trust is good, but not to trust is better. And I said, that must be my Italian heritage that causes me to not be a very trusting person. But collaboration depends on trust. And how about brainstorming? And I've heard that when you actively engage with others, it's proven to increase your ideas and innovation. Like they've done studies, in the corporate world and stuff, of how people's ideas bounce off each other and it just goes up and up and up, like how Google was or Microsoft, those things.
I think to play that game, to be at the table with a group doing that, you have to, like with Scott Peck, I read this morning, that you have to empty. You have to empty all your knowledge of how you think life is. When you're brainstorming, you have to be open to the ideas of others. That means you might have to set your ideas in beside you or behind you while you listen to others. So we make room when we're brainstorming. And brainstorming is fun and silly, but it helps us to break out of our already knowing everything.
That's a really good point. That's something I hadn't thought about. You know, I found that when we acknowledge our areas of weakness and of need, that then the next step seems to be to make changes and improve our skills set, right? And this is referred to as being self-aware. And it's one of the things that makes us emotionally intelligent, which I didn't know much about growing up. But I've learned that it's really important. My generation, we grew up with IQ tests. And that was one part of us as people, but we forgot about EQ, right? Or EI, excuse me.
Emotional intelligence. Yeah. And boy, I've learned so much from good therapists who have helped me learn how to listen reflectively to others, how to use just simple words to let people know I'm listening, nodding my head at the right time, making eye contact. And in a group, that's what is kind of like the teamwork. Fast-moving basketball game, there has to be a lot of awareness of everybody on the floor and what they're doing. We have to do that when we're trying to accomplish a goal together. We have to always be looking, checking in with each other. We're not used to that because we're kind of independent, but that's truly important. And I have to add to that something that in collaboration, inevitably, there are irritations, annoyances. People don't do what they say they're going to do, or they do it not the way you would have, or in any group, there are going to be those things. And trust is that you will approach that person and let them know if it's needed, let them know what was not working for you, and go to the person, not to someone else talking about that person. That's so important, especially at first, to make sure that trust is established. If you have a problem with me, Jude, I trust you coming to me. And that is something that it's not easy to do that. When you have struggle with someone, even in our very close, intimate relationships, to speak to each other with something that's been annoying us or irritating for a while. We need to humble ourselves to say, I don't understand that. Can you explain it to me?
Well, I'm thinking of a lot of the famous successful collaborations. The first one that pops into my head is Paul McCartney and John Lennon. And, we read about, especially after John Lennon was assassinated, the differences in their personalities.
Yeah.
And, look at the genius. Like, it created a single genius, the two of them together. The
synchronicity.
Yeah. In the songs that they wrote and how it changed music. Yeah. And affected generations of musicians, right? That collaboration. Georgia O'Keeffe and Alfred Stieglitz, the unknown artist. And then, she meets him and he's a well-known and well-connected photographer. And the rest is history. It is possible that we would have never really known about her incredible painting had it not been for this person who became her promoter, got her in front of people, and that collaboration was just beautiful.
Right. And, those are so famous. Those people are so famous, and we can do that for each other. Their famousness is because they inspire us at our very local level, at our very interpersonal level. And one of the ones that inspired me as I was reading an article in Jude's Substack about Ben and Jerry, I didn't realize that they shared a bond with their beliefs. Like, that was one of the things that they really cared about. They believed in giving back, and they made their company not with just the idea of making amazing ice cream, but to actually give back to the community. Their business has gone worldwide. They allow people in their business to be part of the profit sharing. They care about their employees. And when we see that in business, that's inspiring. That's taking what we hope to experience in our very close relationships to a national and world level.
Yeah, and I'm sure I haven't read about how their personalities were different, but I can pretty much guarantee that they were. But I think your point about shared values, I think that they are one of the companies that from the beginning have given a certain amount of their profits to nonprofits. I think it's 8% now, that's just part of their business model. And paying their employees well and giving them those benefits and things, very different than the kind of shark kind of business guy you think of that, makes millions on the back of bankruptcies and paying their workers low wages. Mm-hmm. They've got tons of money. They can be a philanthropist and have a hospital built in their name or whatever. But how were their employees?
Yeah.
How did they take care of them? And so it all looks good on the outside, but what were those values? And I think making sure when you start out a collaboration that your values are similar would be the one place where you'd have to make sure you have a solid foundation.
I think what you were describing is a collaboration tipped over. Like, that collaboration was to serve one side or the other. Mm. And a good collaboration in business and organizations is to say, how does our collaboration benefit the much wider world that we live in? Mm. Mm-hmm. I mean, literally around the world. How do we fit in?
Yeah. Well, one thing that you and I collaborated on that I think we have some time for was Linda was hired to start a small private elementary school, a fairly progressive model. It was going to be small classes, and my son, John Life, was going to be in her 4th grade class of 10 kids, and they needed a curriculum. And so since I had taught my daughter at home at that age, I had some books and ideas, but putting it together for a class was not my forte. So Linda, describe that just a little bit for us.
Okay.
How we worked together.
Yeah, we had a wonderful headmaster who came in with wonderful ideas, and so we had a lot of inspiration. But we needed to get to a place where it needed to translate to 4th graders, kids that are 10 years old. And to do that, I had to transpose the ideas into fun activities. So that was what I love to do. And Jude provided the content and the structure, and I was able to apply.
Yep. And I'm the person who loves research. I can get lost in research, but the practicalities of how to make that something that translates into what 10-year-olds can do and have fun at, because Linda's the queen of having fun and making things fun in our lives. And because I'm, a little bit kind of serious. Also, Linda, you were on the board of an HOA in your where you live.
Yes, in a condo complex in Tucson, and it was it was an 80 unit, 8 buildings. It was a big property we had to take care of, and people don't really like HOA meetings, but I went and I started to like being with the group and collaborating with them. We all had different personalities, and most of them were not really all about fun. I was a little bit more in that leaning that way. But one day I missed the meeting, I missed the meeting, and the next meeting, I was elected president. I found out that they decided I should be the president. As president, people from the 80 units would come to me. They thought I was more approachable, and they said, well, we really would like this, or we would like that. And I said, oh, okay, I'll see if I'll do that. I'll do it. And then I went back to the meeting and found out, oh no, when you are in a collaboration with a group, you do not act as a lone ranger making promises you cannot keep. And so I had to learn very quickly. I'll get back to you on that after I talk to my team.
So that was the team was the protection for you,
Totally.
especially for someone like you who's so agreeable and so loves
Wanting
to please people. That's
Yeah.
my husband. But the group can help protect you from that. And I've always said I cannot be on committees and stuff. I'm not a great collaborator to my discredit, but personality wise, it's just better for me not. I do get frustrated with people. I did have a collaboration that worked well, and that was with my sister Susan. We had been in a band with our husbands when we were young, and then when she got pregnant with her first child, the guys needed to do more, and she and I started working together. She played guitar, I played keyboards. And my forte was I hear melodies and I have words. I'm a word person. But I'm a background vocalist. I'm not I don't have a lead voice. Susan had a beautiful lead voice, and she was also a rhythm person. She played guitar, and she added the rhythm and soul. As a matter of fact, when we were in high school and she picked up guitar, and I thought, oh, I'll pick up guitar too. And I started learning the chords, and she said, you should not play guitar. You don't have any rhythm. And I remember, as only a sister can hurt you, but she was right. I don't have that sense of rhythm. I hear melody so strongly that it overpowers rhythm. So,
well, that's beautiful. And I've heard some of your songs together.
Well, we could go on, but it is time to bring this conversation to a close, Linda. Thank you so much for making the time to be with me today and to talk about how the needs that we each have can be gifts to others. And my hope is that listeners have come to see that we all need others, and we have gifts that we can generously share to meet needs if we just make it a priority in our lives and look for the opportunities around us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jude. It's been great being here.
Oh, thank you for listening, everybody, to this Gift of Need podcast. Please consider subscribing to this free podcast and my free Substack newsletter, and leave a review. I'd love to hear from you. Bye.